Hi everyone, Janelle here. I'm a functional nutritionist, doctor of natural medicine, and creator of the Empowered Midlife Method. This is my podcast where we talk about midlife wellness in the mountains. I am on a mission to help women not only feel better and age their best, but also to help women understand their unique body, to take ownership in their health, to awaken their hormone wisdom, and step into their power around growing older. On today's episode, I am joined by Kerry Nolan, a physical therapist and strength coach here in Truckee, California. Kerry specializes in helping active adults, especially mountain-loving midlife women, recover from injury, build real-world strength, and stay on the trails, slopes, and playing fields they love for as long as possible. With a background in sports rehab, knee injuries, and performance training, she brings an evidence-based, down-to-earth, and seriously empowering approach to keeping our bodies strong and resilient in midlife and beyond. In this episode, we are diving into what so many strong, active women are asking. Why do knee injuries seem to skyrocket in midlife, even when we're doing, quote, all the right things, and what can we do to prevent future injuries? We explore what's really changing in our bodies as hormones shift, why traditional workouts may no longer be enough, and how training smarter can help us stay powerful, resilient, and confidently active for decades to come. You and I met earlier this year when we hosted a seminar together about staying strong in midlife. And I really fell in love, Carrie, with your evidence-based, down-to-earth, and curious approach to midlife right away. So now we work together trying to get my knees strong after I tore my meniscus earlier the year. Honestly, I think if I had been doing the work that I'm doing with you now, I'm not sure I would have torn my meniscus. So I'm just so excited to hear what you have to say, how women can stay strong. Let's dive in.
Yeah, let's dive in.
As I mentioned, it does feel like all of my girlfriends and I are ruining our knees in our late 40s and early 50s. So, definitely as we're nearing menopause. And we're not doing anything different. We're all strong, fit athletes, and we're not doing anything different, but we keep injuring ourselves. So, my first question is, do you see midlife women as they get older injuring themselves more frequently, or is it just me?
No, that is definitely a trend that we see midlife women, but also midlife men as well. It tends to happen like a little bit anecdotally, but also evidence-wise. It tends to happen the further away from organized sports we get, the more injury prone we become. We turn into almost like a weekend warrior where you're not necessarily training for your sport because now we have jobs, we have families, we have kids, we have other responsibilities. So we're not having the official practice time that we would before, where you're going through those sport specific movements and your body's getting used to that. It's kind of like I worked all week and now it's snowing. I'm going to go ski. What's my body going to do? So it definitely does trend more towards that midlife, for a multitude of different reasons, but that does seem to be what happens as we age.
I didn't ever think about that. But yeah, as you get farther from organized sports, that makes sense. You're not training as methodically and mindfully. But then also, we just start losing muscle, right? As we get older. And then I did look up some research that said it accelerates after menopause if we don't do anything about it.
Yes, that's correct. Your muscle mass and your bone density. So there's always age-related changes, and unfortunately, just as we age, it's a lot harder to build muscle to keep up with how much we lose.
Hmm.
And the same thing goes for bone density. You start losing muscle faster than your body can rebuild it. So we have to do our best to try and keep up with that. But the other part of that that I kind of want to touch on is the kind of muscle fibers that you lose. So we tend to lose the fast twitch muscle fibers first. So those are the ones for like change of direction or explosive movements, for power kind of movements. We
Mm.
lose those quicker than we lose our slow twitch muscle fibers, which are more the endurance fibers. And
Mm.
some of those fast twitch muscle fibers actually turn into endurance fibers. So a lot of times when people get injured, it's usually some kind of quick movement. Either you're trying to stop yourself from falling, or you took a turn too fast, or slipped on ice or something that's quick and unexpected. So if you're already losing those muscles that are very reactive to that kind of movement, you're at more of a risk to be injured because your body can't react as quickly.
I didn't know that. That makes a lot of sense. So we lose our fast twitch muscles first.
Yep.
All right, that's great. And you sort of mentioned this there a little bit, but one of the most important messages that I like to give people is that yes, our bodies change as we get older, but there are things we can do
Yeah.
to mitigate those problems. Like if we change our actions, then we can try to keep up with those changes. So I love that. Okay, so we lose fast twitch first. What else? What else is going on?
A lot of it has to do kind of like we were talking about with time. Uh, Exercise is usually the first thing that goes if we run out of time. So if you think about the age that you are when you're, late 40s, early 50s, you have kids that are in sports, you have family obligations, you probably have work, travel. Sleep doesn't really happen as well as it used to because you don't prioritize sleep. So the recovery portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of all of that can be factored into what creates injury. So one of the biggest risk factors for injury besides previous injury is fatigue. So when your muscles are in a fatigue state and you're trying to push them to do your sport or whatever activity you're involved in, that can be a risk as well. And a lot of that goes into that whole time and stress and like your parents are sick and you're taking care
Mm-hmm.
of them. Your kid has to go to a tournament, and then all of that kind of builds together to be like the worst timing in life when you're like you're busy,
Mm-hmm.
but you still are active enough to want to get out and take advantage of this wonderful place that we live.
Mm-hmm.
I think that plays into a lot of it more than people realize.
Mm-hmm. I didn't really think of that either, but yeah. And in midlife, we're sleeping way less with our hormones changing and with hot
Yes.
flashes. Fatigue is a common symptom that I hear from women. So, anything else you want to add about things going on before we discuss what we can do about it?
Yeah, so we've talked about this before, Janelle, and we talked about this during the seminar, talking about that load capacity and why does an injury happen? The easiest way to put that is the external load on your body is stronger than the capacity of whatever tissue you injured. So when people talk about load, a lot of times the only thing they're thinking about is strength, how heavy something was. But that isn't what load is. Load is any external force. So it could be, that one quick slip. It could be something rotational. It could be, an impact, like a car accident or something. Anything that your body is getting impacted by is considered load. Now, that load becomes even heavier when all of those other factors like fatigue or stress or diet or
Mm-hmm.
any kind of thing plays in. So maybe, one day I could squat or split squat or whatever 100 pounds, but then I try and do that next week, but I just got a COVID shot. My mom's sick. I didn't sleep well. And now that 100 pounds feels like 400 pounds. And
Mm-hmm.
that plays a big part in how well prepared your body is to take that load on. And that goes for sports. I always go back to weightlifting because that's what I do. But it's like any kind of sport is an external load on your body.
Yeah, that is really fascinating. And I'm just thinking into it a little bit, and all those stressors add up to make the load more intense for your body. And also, because my specialty is hormones and hormones changing. And so, really, when we go through those massive fluctuations, and a lot of this I'm just inferring because the research really isn't there yet. Like, we need so much more research on this. But what we do know is it is stressful to go through hormone changes, and especially later when the hormone changes are really high and then really low. Losing estrogen is inflammatory. It does reduce that collagen synthesis and it impacts the connective tissue and yeah, inflammation. So I'm just thinking that would all add to making things harder for our body to handle, right?
The homeostasis that you had been so
Yes.
used to for the first 45 years of your life is completely different
Yeah.
at that point. So
Right.
it does like take time for your body to adjust to all those new, pH balance or hormonal balance or any of that kind of thing. And it all, unfortunately, it all impacts. But I kind of want to talk about when we talked at the seminar. I love the way that you frame it, where it's like, we're not victims. This is a natural thing. Don't like think that, oh, poor pitiful me, I can't do anything about it. Like there's definitely things to be done about it. And I just was listening to a podcast and got this advertisement that was talking about women's osteoporosis as they age, and like just bending over to pick up groceries, you could get a fracture. And I was like, why is this ad on? That's horrifying.
Yes,
Like, that's
I
that's like,
so agree with you, Carrie. It's like people focus on what's happening to us and
right.
how troublesome this is and how we have to deal with it and we're victims and all this stuff is happening. When you and I love it because we are like, no, okay, this is happening. Learn about it, inform yourself, and then get up to speed with what you can do to be proactive and make changes and take steps, like methodical, smart steps that really improve how your body functions and how you age and how you feel. And then you won't get injured. As we've talked about, yes, things are hard to prevent everything, but reducing the likelihood of injury and all of that. So I love that you are on board with that positive message. And it really is so different, the messages that people give. You're a victim, or okay, how do we belly up and make changes? So, okay, so Carrie, how do we belly up and make changes?
How do we make changes? So I think a lot of we've the conversation used to be a lot about adolescent females, which is very similar to perimenopausal females with all the changes that are happening. So when you dive into the research about injury rates in female athletes when they're younger, in my opinion, you can also correlate that with female athletes when they're older, because it doesn't necessarily, they used to say, oh, you have wide hips and like valgus knees, and that's why girls are tearing their ACLs a lot more
Mm,
than boys. Where really what it is, when you look at relative body strength, girls didn't have access to strength training. They didn't have access to proper coaching. They didn't have access to those kind of things that the boys did because they were always in the gym. So I think now, if you look at that over a lifespan, I feel like a lot of correlations can be the same, because even when I was growing up, like I'm 38, but when I was in high school, the girls weren't in the strength training class. The
hmm
football kids, they were always in there, but like soccer, we just ran.
Yeah.
And maybe did some planks because our coach told us to do planks.
Yeah.
But
Same.
otherwise, we weren't really given any instruction on what to do. And even women that I work with now, yeah, they're fit, they're in the gym, you're athletic, but what can we do to actually create stability in the joints to keep you as active as possible for as long as possible? So that's when I like to talk to people about the SAID principle. So SAID, it means specific adaptations to imposed demands. So that's like anything you have. You can put that up against anything. Whatever you are demanding of your body will adapt to that demand. So
Mm,
that kind of goes back to when we're talking about muscle loss or when we talk about bone density. You have to create the environment in your body for those changes to take place to try and mitigate how quickly they can be lost. So
hmm
starting off, you can start strength training at any age, and the sooner the better. Because if
hmm
we go into middle age with a higher muscle density, it takes a lot longer and it will slow down how quickly that muscle can be transferred to the slow twitch or to be lost.
hmm
In addition to that, we need to mimic the sport we want to participate in our training.
mm,
Now, that a lot of times people talk about that with like golf. Like every golfer wants to just do like rotational exercises to help their swing, and that's great, but that doesn't quite meet the needs that we have. So, if we're talking about the meniscus specifically, that is a lot of like planting, turning, rotational kind of movements. That's what our meniscus is there for, one of the things that our meniscus is there for. So if we only do frontal plane exercises, we're
mm.
not challenging that meniscus in the ways that our sport will.
So
So if you
wait, let
think
me
of,
just pause you there. So when you say in one plane, so that would be things like I'm running, so that's straight. right?
Hmm.
And then even things like lunging, that's straight, right?
Yeah, so we'll start and what we do like a 3D lunge. So you do a forward lunge, a lateral lunge, and then a curtsy
Mm,
lunge. So you're
hmm
rotating behind you. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. In addition to that, what a lot of people leave out are those plyometric faster movements. So even if a lot of people will do a box jump, but are you ever doing a depth jump where you're jumping off of the box and now you have to land in like a squatted, like athletic position, because
mm,
those are very different activities. So if you're leaving one out, and then you're going to ask your body to do that when you go over a little roller at the
mm,
mountain,
hmm
if it wasn't prepared to do that, that might be a risk. And it's not saying that you have to do plyometrics every day of the week, but if you look back to when you were athletic and participating in sports, those were very organized sports. You were practicing, so you were exposed to that kind of activity way more often than we are now when you have a job and a family and other obligations.
Okay, so this is exactly what I'm talking about, Carrie. This is why I'm so happy you're here because before I hurt my knee, I was doing strength class multiple days a week, and I was staying strong, staying fit, cardio, all the things. But I was not methodical about it. I was not doing what you're just talking about. I was just kind of like haphazardly doing what I've always been doing for strength. And so that's what I will never do again. I now feel so much stronger than I ever have, or than I have in a long time because I'm working so much smarter. And so you started listing a few things right there, and I would love to just double click on those just because I would love people to know walking away, okay, I'm getting older. I want to protect my knees because that's what we're talking about specifically. What are the things I need to include regularly? Not daily, but regularly. So you said a couple. You said, can you just reiterate again what you said? You were saying jumping off a box. Just go ahead and go through the list again of things we should do.
Yeah, the first one I would say is something rotational. So
Rotation.
something you're putting that rotational kind of stress in the knee joint, the hip joint, the foot joint, any of those lower extremity joints, even like core and lower back.
Is
So
that
those
like a
are all,
curtsy squat? I mean,
it could be a curtsy squat. It could be like sometimes we'll do a split squat with a rotation. You could do
mm,
med ball throws. You could add some speed aspects to it. A crossover step up, a crossover step down. There's a lot of different ways that you can add
mm,
that.
mm,
And like you said, it doesn't have to be every single day, but it needs to be somewhat consistent
mm.
in order to make those changes and continue to prepare your body for those kind of movements.
Okay.
And then on top of rotation, something quick, something fast, something powerful. So a lot of times we'll add some sort of jump, whether it's like a box jump straight up, vertical jump, broad jump, single leg, some kind of plyometric dedicated activity twice a week usually is what I tell people to do. And on top of that, what a lot of people do is they'll do like a hit workout, right? So you're doing like mountain climbers or something like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about dedicated max effort power activities to maintain those fast twitch fibers the best that you can.
So rotation, burst, power.
Mhm.
What else are we talking about? What else is important to add as we get older?
Definitely single leg things, one for balance, but two, it is a way more athletic movement to do like a split squat versus a barbell back squat. Like I love a barbell back squat, but that doesn't really transfer over to anything except general strength and a barbell back squat. Like if I want to become more athletic, it's usually a better idea to do something like a rear foot elevated split squat, a lunge, a regular split squat, something where you can work on your balance, but also you will often see, you can feel if you feel a difference between one side to the other.
Mm,
It
hmm
might be like a yellow flag, like, hey, you know what? Actually, I hurt this knee 2 years ago. It feels a little weird and different than the other side. And then that's maybe when you need to get a little outside help if you
hmm
feel like you have a big discrepancy from side to side. There
That's
are,
something I really learned from you. And I've
yeah,
encouraged all my friends that have had knee injuries to go and see a physical therapist again, just to make sure that we're not super asymmetrical because of those, even when we feel like we're recovered.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the first things we do when somebody comes in and they talk about an injury that they have, and they say, I haven't changed anything. I do the same routine, whatever. We'll look at like the previous 12 weeks. And maybe there was like a 2 week period. It was like, oh, actually, I was on vacation. Or there was like, I changed my shoes. Or I started this new medication or something in the past 12 weeks. It's pretty rare for an injury to come out of nowhere, unless
Hmm.
you literally got hit by something
Hmm.
like a trauma.
Hmm.
But most of the time, there is something
Hmm.
different in the past
Hmm.
few weeks or months that we can pinpoint. And then it's like, okay, we've figured it out. Now that's not your fault,
Hmm.
but what can we do to help it and then prevent it moving forward? So a lot of my patients, a lot of my, especially female patients, stay on and I just write them strength training programs specific to them after we're finished with physical therapy, but it's prepping like right now we're just transferring into in-season skiing prep where the past couple of months we were on pre-season skiing prep.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's really important that you find somebody who understands what your goals are, especially in this mountain town that we live in, and nobody has an off season, it's just next season. So
Hmm.
try to
Hmm.
find the right balance of, okay, this is how much time I have. What should I prioritize in my training to make sure that I have the best season I can?
Right. So, okay. So you said rotation, power, single leg, and then what about the jumps again? What did you say about that?
So a lot of times people will do like a whole lot of jumps, like
Hmm.
a bunch of jumps. I prefer that we do fewer reps, and there's like algorithms for this, especially
Hmm.
if you're first starting, because I wouldn't ever tell somebody to go do like 30 jumps if they haven't jumped in like 2 months. That's
Right.
just asking for an issue.
Yes.
But I usually stay towards the lower rep ranges and have people make sure they're giving themselves their maximum effort each time.
Mm-hmm.
If that's like, sometimes we'll start with like a seated box jump. So you're literally just sitting and then try and jump up as fast as you can. Um, and then we give yourself enough rest. We're not trying to go for heart rate or anything. We're just trying to give max power each
Mm.
time.
Mm. Okay, that's the
That's
power one.
yeah. So that's
Hmm.
usually where I start.
Hmm.
And then if somebody is a runner, we eventually want to get into a higher repetition, um,
Hmm.
shorter range of motion plyometric to mimic what running is, which is basically just stopping yourself from falling
Hmm.
every step.
Yeah, right. I like that description. I think I learned that from
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, it's a controlled fall. Yeah.
Hmm.
So it kind of a lot of this will vary based on the person's medical history and what their goals are and their main sport, but those are
Right.
like the main principles that I use. I think people they go too hard too quickly with something
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm.
Take some time to train your body to accept that if you haven't been doing it.
Right. And to move in the right way. I think moving too quickly is probably a common thing I see in my friends too, trying to do things too fast. But will you say one more time what the acronym SAID stands for?
Yes, it means specific adaptations to imposed demands.
Okay. And
So
so
your
those are the
body,
lists of the different movements you just mentioned.
yeah, yep,
Okay.
yep, because we want to mimic your sport as much as we can to
Hmm.
make sure it's ready for it. It's just hard. I tell people this all the time. It's hard because I'm used to working with field athletes, so I can do that in the gym or outside. I
Hmm.
can't really mimic what skiing is going to feel like in the gym,
Hmm.
but we can find a lot of different ways to pick apart the sport and make sure your body goes through those motions before
Hmm.
you go for, try and send it.
So it just becomes so much more important to work smarter.
Yes.
We just can't
Yep.
push and work blindly like we used to, maybe. Because I
Yeah,
want to keep
exactly.
playing super hard for decades and decades. So that's why I
Yeah.
want to get smarter about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really only takes, I usually start people off with 2 days a week if you haven't had a dedicated strength training program, because we want to get every major muscle group at least twice a week. So
Hmm.
some people that's 4 days a week, just shorter.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's 2 days a week, just a little bit longer.
Hmm.
But as long as we do that, you're going to keep yourself robust and resilient. The other important part of that is people don't understand what failure is, and people underestimate how strong they are because
Hmm.
you can do reps or you can do 20 reps, whatever your rep scheme is, we have to get close to failure because that's going to be those muscles pulling on your bones to help with that bone density. And that's what we really need.
So that's just a really important point that I've learned recently. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. And it probably maybe even takes working with someone. For me, it was sort of like working with someone to see like how tired am I really? Like, am I really fatiguing my muscle?
Well,
And
and a lot of times too, like we're talking about actual muscular fatigue. We don't want to talk about cardiorespiratory fatigue.
right.
So a lot of times in those classes, which are great because we do want to work through all those cardio zones, you might feel tired because your heart rate is super high, but
Hmm.
are your muscles tired? And
Hmm.
there's a difference between
Hmm.
those things.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of like accessory kind of activity that is great, but like the biggest thing is making a nice strong base. And
Hmm.
it doesn't take that long. But yeah, sometimes people just need a little guidance.
Hmm. This is
Like
what
what
I've
is
shifted most since hurting my knee. I used to
Mhm.
do cardio maybe 4 or 5 days a week and strength 1 or 2 days a week. And
Yeah.
now I'm doing strength 4 or 5 days a week and a fun cardio day and
Yeah.
just way more methodical and mindful about how I'm moving. And it feels really good. But we have to learn that, and it's not easy to make changes.
Oh, it's not. And a lot of people, their main source of exercise is running or
Cardio.
something,
Hmm.
based. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
which is
isn't bad.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's not
it's
bad,
good.
but it does need a little support.
Yes, that's what I'm learning. And that's what it is really funny. I think it's 95% of my friends have gotten injuries, and they're all pretty tough gals. So we're
Yeah.
all shifting things up for sure. And can you explain one more time? Because I loved how you explained it before, and then we can start wrapping up. But I think you call it load capacity.
Yep.
You mentioned it, but how, and you've mentioned really fatiguing our muscles, but how do we know that balance of not doing too much? And I love your analogy that you told me.
Oh, yeah. So load capacity is basically any kind of external load. If it's too high, it's going to overcome the capacity of your tissues. And that's the baseline of what an injury is.
Hmm.
In physical therapy and in strength training, we kind of skirt this line between what the capacity of our tissues is and how much load we're putting on it, because our goal is to dose the correct load to build the capacity of our tissues. So now when I'm skiing, my body's tissues capacity can take on a lot more of that external load. So I usually use something called auto regulation when I dose exercises for people. So say I gave you 3 sets of 8. I'm going to either choose an RPE, which is rate of perceived exertion. That's 7 or 8 to start. So that's pretty hard.
Hmm.
The other way that we use that is RIR, so reps in reserve. So that's
Hmm.
the opposite. So there I'm going to say heavy enough that you could have only done 2 or 3 more
Hmm.
reps.
Hmm.
That's how we start dosing it. And then as those get easier and the weight is increasing, we can start pushing closer to that zero, like I'm gonna fail. And you don't
Hmm.
want to do that for every rep every week,
Hmm.
but those are the kind of guidelines that we use. So it's
Hmm.
auto regulation because that also takes into consideration the stress, the fatigue, the nutrition, how you're feeling that day,
Yeah, hydration, probably.
hydration. Yeah, an RIR of 3 one day might be an RIR of 7 another day, depending on all those other factors.
Right.
So I'm not giving you, for most people, unless their goal is to hit a certain weight, I'm not really prescribing a weight for them to hit. I'm giving them that
Mm.
number so
Hmm.
they can anchor themselves for how they're feeling that day. Because a failure is a failure, and we just need to get kind of close to it to help those tissues get stronger.
Yeah, I really just love that visualization of finding that dance between enough input, but then not too much. And then I feel like for me, I'm not a physical therapist, but you kind of learn how it feels in your own body. And that takes time. But then when you learn that, then you can work on your own confidently and feel that delicate balance. Like that's, I'm definitely starting to feel that now where I can push myself more and not injure myself. And that's really, really a cool place to be. But it didn't happen overnight for me. It
Oh
took
yeah.
having to work at it and keep doing the strength and talk to experts like you. But now I really do feel like, oh, it's clicked. And so I just want to encourage people, if it doesn't make sense now, to just keep, listen to your own body, work with your own practitioners, but maybe trust that you will feel that at some point, that balance. And I'm not perfect at it, but I can feel it now a little bit better. It makes more sense when it didn't before.
Yeah, and I mean, my main goal is to try and get people to a place of self-efficacy.
Hmm.
I don't want people to feel like, oh, like I tweaked this, I have to go see Carrie to fix it. It's like I don't fix things. I like to use so many analogies. I like to use the analogy of like I'm the navigator, you're the captain.
Hmm.
I am totally willing to help guide you on this journey, but you got to show up for yourself too.
Hmm. Yes. Yes. And
Things
that's
don't.
what women need to do, I think, in midlife is show up for themselves, even though we're
Yes.
busy, even though we're tired. It pays off
It
to.
pays off. And there's
Hmm.
always a way to
Hmm.
find some time, even if
Hmm.
it's like breaking it up a couple different times in one day. There's
Hmm.
all
Yeah, or like when you're cooking, I told someone I attached a band under my table so that when I'm cooking, I can do my leg extensions
those leg
back.
extensions. Yeah.
Yeah. I was sore the other day from doing them while cooking. My girlfriends on a bike ride were laughing so hard at me. But anyway, anything else,
You did
Carrie,
it.
that you would like to share about this topic before we wrap up? You're such a wealth
No.
of information.
Oh yeah, that's it's my favorite thing to talk about. I mean, I had injured knees. That's why I'm a physical therapist. I had a couple knee injuries and a surgery that actually failed. And the only thing that helped me was getting as strong as possible. And I just love sharing that because I've seen even over the like dozen years that I've been a physical therapist, there is a really nice upward trend of women getting in the gym and getting stronger,
Hmm.
instead of, the what it used to be where it was, mom's step aerobics classes. Not that they're
Yes.
bad.
Yes.
There's a place for everything, but it's been great. It's been like a really fun trajectory. So just like you said, you have to advocate for yourself and you have to make time for yourself, and you are also important. So if you need help, find help. There's a lot of help out there.
Hmm. Great. And getting strong is so important. And I love that women are doing it and we're getting ripped. We're not trying to be skinny. We're like, no, let's get strong and let's play for decades. I love
Yeah, and people talk about that bulking up, and I will tell you one thing, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of nutrition, a lot of supplementation to get bulky.
it.
So
Yeah.
it's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
I like having muscle on my bones though. And it feels good. It feels like protection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my patients just told me I look like I could beat somebody up the other day.
Nice.
I was like, yeah, totally could.
You definitely could, Carrie. But thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for helping me and my knee, and now hopefully lots of other women and their bodies get stronger. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Okay. Bye, Carrie.
Bye.
That's it for this week. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a comment and a review as that helps it reach more people. You can find me and the Empowered Midlife Method online at mountainrebalance.com. I help midlife women understand their body and feel and age their best. If that sounds like you, please join my community. If there's a topic you'd like me to cover here or an expert you want me to have on, let me know. Thanks for listening. In the meantime, keep playing, and here's to aging our best.